A group of people backstabbed you. Here is the name. Watch fast. The moon trembled behind torn clouds. The night they smiled in your face and whispered curses into the air behind your back. Their laughter echoed like music made of broken glass, slicing through your spirit when you weren't looking, when you were too kind, too loyal, too open to suspect. You welcomed them into your space, into the sacred fire of your trust, and they danced around it with masks made of charm and flattery while their shadows twisted in betrayal. You felt the tremor before the storm broke, an unease that curled in your stomach like smoke from an unseen fire. You tried to dismiss it, tried to wrap their words in ribbons of hope, but the rot beneath their surface was growing louder. The glances that shifted too quickly, the silences that clung too long, the invisible wall of resentment dressed in politeness, it was all there, and you knew it, even before it crushed you. They gathered in secret places, stitching lies with surgical precision, each thread woven from envy and ancient wounds they never healed. Their smiles never reached their eyes, and now you see why, because their joy was not your rise, but your ruin. The storm was not coming, it had already begun inside their hearts, blooming like mold in the dark. God says your pain was not paranoia. It was prophecy. You were set apart long before they plotted. You were chosen long before they sneered behind closed lips. But because you carried a light they could not understand, they mistook your kindness for weakness and your destiny for something they could rewrite. The moment they began to feast on your name in your absence, the heavens grew still. A hush passed over the realm unseen, and watchers wept, not because you were fooled, but because they knew what would come next. This was not just betrayal. This was an unholy offering made at an altar of jealousy. Their betrayal was not random, it was timed. Coordinated. Born of envy that grew like ivy through their veins. While you prayed for their increase, they sharpened their blades beneath tables. While you defended them in rooms they never saw, they sketched your downfall in invisible ink. Their hands were never empty, they just hid what they carried behind their backs. And now the air is thick with unspoken truth. You've seen it, you've felt it, but part of you still wrestles with denial. The hope that maybe it wasn't what it seemed, maybe you're imagining it, maybe you're being too sensitive. But no. You are not confused. You are being awakened. God says this is not just exposure, it is a severance. You cannot rebuild where termites dwell. You cannot resurrect where snakes have made their home. The false peace is over. What looked like loyalty was layered in performance. And now the performance is ending, the masks cracking, the illusion dissolving into a sickening clarity. There is a name among them that pulses with darkness. A name that carries a particular gravity. This one didn't just go along with the whispers, they started them. They directed the chorus. They rehearsed your downfall in silence and smiled when it began to echo back. You will know the name. The heavens will reveal it. But not yet. First, you must feel the full weight of what was done. Not to punish, not to crush you, but to clear the ground. You cannot plant purity in poisoned soil. You cannot carry divine fire in a house built on deception. Archangel Michael says the winds have changed. The quiet has broken. The spiritual surveillance has ended. Now comes the intervention. Not gentle. Not soft. But righteous. What they tried to bury will rise like thunder. What they tried to curse will become anointed. They underestimated what covering you really means. They thought your silence was weakness, your restraint was ignorance, your mercy was blindness. But the divine realm never slumbers, and their misdeeds were written like fire into the scroll of judgment. Time is no longer on their side. The first sign was your sorrow. The second, your stillness. The third is coming, the one they cannot stop. The one that turns the table without your hands ever moving. Their alliance was not built on truth. It was forged in fear. And now, like a house of smoke, it will vanish when the true wind comes. You were not alone when they betrayed you. Angels watched. Heaven recorded. God grieved. And now the tide turns. You feel it, don't you? The shift. The burn behind your ribs. The sacred anger rising not to destroy but to cleanse. The pain is no longer a wound, it's a birth canal. What was meant to end you has become the echo of your beginning. This is not just a revelation. This is a reckoning. They stood in the light of your trust with blood already drying on their hands, and still they smiled. Still they played their part. Still they hugged you with arms that had already thrown the dagger. You did not just suffer betrayal, you dined with it, laughed with it, prayed beside it. The ones you gave everything to were carving pieces of your name off behind your back like flesh from a sacrifice they thought no one would ever see. Their betrayal was deliberate. This wasn't a moment of weakness. This was premeditated. They looked at your joy and plotted your grief. They couldn't stand your rise, so they rehearsed your fall. And when it began, they nodded quietly to themselves like priests at a twisted altar. You were not just betrayed. You were offered up. And the worst part? You loved them. Not passively, not out of obligation, but fiercely, unconditionally, at your own expense. You covered them. You wept for them. You defended them in rooms they never knew you were standing in. You carried their secrets like a vault, and they used those very secrets to build the knife they turned against you. Archangel Michael says this was not confusion, it was war. You were infiltrated. Planted among them like wheat among tares. You thought you were building together, but you were surrounded by architects of ruin. They studied you. They mimicked your language. They learned your rhythms so they could tear you down from the inside. And they smiled while doing it. There is no confusion anymore. The evidence is heavy in your spirit. The messages, the silence, the sudden distance, the echo of conversations you were never supposed to hear. It's all coming to the surface now. Not to crush you, but to arm you. Not to break you, but to position you. They celebrated your pain in private. They toasted your setbacks like victories. Your delays became their gospel. Every missed opportunity, every moment you second-guessed yourself, they fed off it like locusts. You were never just a friend to them. You were a symbol. A threat. A mirror that showed them what they refused to become. So they turned on you, not because of what you did wrong, but because of what you did right. God says they were never sent. They were allowed. They were given access to show you what you needed to see before the next level. They were permitted to sit at your table so they could reveal what still needed to be purged before your true feast arrived. And now, with trembling fury, the heavens are rising. Because what was done in secret is being judged in full daylight. The betrayal was a test, but the judgment will be a fire. What they stitched together in darkness will unravel in front of everyone. What they said in whispers will echo like thunder. What they built to trap you will become the very stage where their motives are laid bare. This is no longer about vindication, it's about divine justice. The air is shifting around your name. Even now, their alliances are turning inward. Suspicion is rising among them. The ones who schemed are now watching their circle rot from the inside. The curse they crafted has begun to eat its own tail. The fire they started has found its way back to their own doorstep. One of them has already broken. Their silence is not peace, it's fear. They feel the breath of judgment on their neck. They cannot sleep. They cannot pray. Their dreams are fractured, their mirror is cracked, and the spirit of conviction hovers like a storm that won't move. The guilt is louder than your presence ever was. God says this is the hour of revealing. The ones who acted like allies but served as spies, their names are being written in the wind. The betrayal is no longer hidden. The wound is now evidence. And what they meant for evil is being transformed into a platform that not only lifts you, but warns the ones watching in silence. You were not naive. You were pure. You were not weak. You were chosen. You were not abandoned. You were preserved. Archangel Michael says their swords have been shattered. The spiritual weapons formed against you are lying in pieces at your feet. What was conjured in envy has been consumed by holy fire. Your silence is no longer a burden, it's a shield. Your stillness is no longer passive, it's strategic. Every delay you endured is now bearing fruit in dimensions they cannot see. The blade they held was never theirs. It was borrowed, leased by darkness, permitted by time. But now, that lease has expired. The hands that held it will begin to shake. The voices that whispered will begin to crack. And the name that orchestrated the betrayal is about to surface, not in chaos, but in perfect timing. There is no going back. The line has been drawn. The storm has been summoned, not to destroy you, but to cleanse the field. You will no longer question your instincts. You will no longer shrink your gift. You will no longer carry wolves on your shoulders while calling it loyalty. The blade is still dripping, but now everyone sees it. And when they look into your eyes now, they don't see the same softness. They see the flame, the knowing, the unshakable calm of someone who has walked through betrayal and come out divine. Your tears were never wasted. They were fuel. And now the fire is here. It begins with a whisper in the spirit, a name you once cherished that now flickers like ash beneath your tongue. It returns in flashes, moments you ignored, patterns you dismissed, a voice that trembled when it lied. The hidden one is no longer hidden. The curtain has burned away, and the figure behind the betrayal steps into the firelight, trembling not with regret, but with exposure. You don't need anyone to confirm it. You feel it ripple through your bones like a forgotten storm waking in your blood. Every time you hear their name now, it carries a weight. A static. A sacred warning. This was not just a person. This was an assignment sent in flesh. They were never harmless. They were sent to plant ruin with a gentle hand and an unseen grin. God says, this name is marked. You welcomed them with arms wide open, but they never came empty-handed. From the start, they carried an agenda, a spiritual infection disguised as intimacy. They studied your rhythms, mirrored your movements, and inserted themselves into your holy places. They wanted what you carried, but not through transformation, through theft. The revelation comes like thunder inside a glass house. You look back now and every word they ever spoke fractures under scrutiny. The praise that felt just a bit too forced. The way they watched you pray. The way they turned every celebration into an opportunity to recenter themselves. The signs were always there. But you were loving. And they were strategic. You weren't blind. You were brave. You believed in their better. You saw the child inside the mask, the bruised soul behind the betrayal, and you hoped, oh, how you hoped, they would rise with you. But they didn't want to rise. They wanted to replace. They wanted to dismantle your light and wear it as their own, even if it meant extinguishing everything you were building. Archangel Michael says the time for naming has come. There is no more hiding. No more spiritual ambiguity. The one who orchestrated the slander, the slow drip of poison into your relationships, your opportunities, your reputation, will be named by the wind and confirmed by divine unrest. They cannot outrun it. It will find them in their silence. It will shatter the mask. It will make them speak. This exposure is not vengeance. It is purification. The circle cannot be cleansed while the snake still coils at its center. And now, heaven moves with precision. You may not announce the name, but you won't have to. The pattern will reveal them. Their words will betray them. Their fruit will fall rotten from the tree for all to see. One by one, their alliances will fall apart as the fire approaches. This name, this betrayer, once walked closest to your heart. They were there in the quiet moments. They held your secrets, not with care, but with calculation. They wept with you not out of empathy, but performance. And now the divine judgment is not just on what they did, but how deeply they pretended not to. God says they knew what they were doing. There was no accident. No confusion. This was choice. Over and over again, they stepped across the line, not with shame, but entitlement. They thought they were untouchable. That your silence meant permission. That your grace meant weakness. But now, judgment walks behind them like a second shadow, whispering their true name into rooms they thought were safe. And they are unraveling. It has already begun. The anxiety. The avoidance. The rewriting of their story. The attempts to cover what cannot be cleansed without confession. You've seen the cracks. The slip-ups. The flinches in their voice. The disconnect between their presence and their spirit. They feel your knowing, and it haunts them. Archangel Michael says the confrontation won't be loud, it will be holy. You won't need revenge. You won't need proof. The divine realm has already ruled. You are being vindicated not through exposure alone, but through a shift in power. Their access to you has ended. Their influence is dissolving. What they built will collapse under the weight of their deception. Do not run from the name. Do not bury the revelation. This is not bitterness. It is clarity. It is the divine call to walk without blindfolds into your next chapter. Let their name rise. Let the truth ring like a bell that cannot be unrung. This is how the ground is cleared. This is how the inheritance is protected. You were not wrong to love them. But you are no longer permitted to carry them. Their presence was always temporary. Their mission was always rooted in disruption. And now that the lesson is complete, the judgment arrives with fire in its wings. Not to destroy them, but to remove them. What they touched can no longer stay connected to what you're becoming. The throne is being guarded now. Your name is being rewritten in the spirit realm, not as the victim, but the vessel. You were pierced so you could pour. You were betrayed so you could be elevated without error. The betrayer's name is being erased from the future you once planned to share. You have been released. The final sign is silence. They will not confess in words, but in absence. They will vanish from your story, not through closure, but through collapse. The heavens are not asking for your forgiveness. They've already enacted your justice. Let it unfold. Let it burn clean. And when you wake tomorrow, do not say their name. Bless your own instead. The sky does not whisper anymore, it roars. The name has been revealed, the knives have fallen, and now the sword of justice rises, gleaming in divine flame. This is not the moment of mourning. This is the hour of war. And you, beloved vessel, you are no longer the wounded. You are the weapon reborn. The ground trembles beneath the feet of those who once laughed in secret. Their alliances unravel like old ropes soaked in holy oil. The very schemes they weaved are igniting, one by one, as Archangel Michael steps into the realm of your life with wings that cast down shadows and a voice that splits the silence. Michael says, "Enough. The time of being silent in your suffering is over. Heaven has sounded the call, and the judgment is not delayed. Those who used your kindness as camouflage now stand exposed, trembling before the truth that will not stop ringing. You were never left to fend for yourself. The sword was always above your camp, waiting, watching, and now striking. There is no confusion. This is divine retaliation. The ones who cursed your name behind velvet curtains now face the divine reckoning reserved for those who break covenants sealed in blood and spirit. This was not petty betrayal. This was spiritual treason. And the fire it summoned has reached the throne. You have been cloaked in silence, not because you were forgotten, but because you were being prepared. Each delay was the sharpening of a blade. Each heartbreak was the polishing of your armor. And now, heaven says, go forward with fire. The sword of Archangel Michael swings not only at your enemies, but at every tether that tried to hold you to them. Emotional chains are severed. Soul ties are shattered. The illusion of shared destiny has collapsed into sacred ash. What once looked like community was a cage. And now the door is off its hinges. God says, you do not owe anyone a return to the past they defiled. Let the silence remain. Let their absence speak. Let their own shadows haunt what they planted. You are not called to explain. You are not called to reconcile. You are called to rise. And rise you will, not with bitterness, but with fire. The blaze has begun. It burns through your memories, separating gold from rubble. It consumes every lie they sowed in your mind, every delay they wrapped around your vision. It burns the stage they built for your downfall, turning it into the altar of your coronation. This is divine reversal in full flame. Those who whispered, "You'll never make it," will watch as the heavens open for you without warning. They will choke on the smoke of their own words as you walk through fire and emerge untouched. Their laughter has turned into silence. Their strategy has dissolved. The one they tried to kill with gossip has become the one God raises in glory. You are not who you were when they betrayed you. That version of you, trusting, soft, unguarded, was buried beneath their lies. But in its place has risen a force so radiant, so untouchable, that even the darkness pauses. Your discernment has become razor sharp. Your spirit, untethered. You do not look back. You do not slow down. You move as the flame. They tried to tie your name to failure. Now your name is written in lightning. They tried to bind your steps to doubt. Now your path burns with divine direction. They tried to infect your peace. Now you are surrounded by the silence of God's approval. Archangel Michael says this was your exodus. You have left the land of betrayal. You have crossed the sea of silence. And now, the wilderness has opened, not to punish, but to prepare you for what eyes have not seen and ears have not heard. The false ones could not follow. The betrayer was not permitted past the threshold. You have been sealed. Heaven has not only cleared the way, it has crowned you. The throne of your next chapter does not sit atop peace, but battle. You earned it not by ease, but by enduring. And now the watchers rejoice. The air has shifted. The spiritual realm recognizes you, not as the broken, but as the burning. God says, "You have passed the test of betrayal. Now you walk in authority. And still, you carry no vengeance." That is what makes you dangerous to the darkness. You carry fire, but not fury. You carry judgment, but not pride. You carry the sword, but only in obedience. You did not seek war, but now war bows before you. This is the sound of your rising. This is the moment the betrayer becomes irrelevant. This is the hour the heavens gather behind you, no longer hidden. This is where the chapter ends, and the throne begins.